Aloha again, everybody. Mike Drutar, Principal Broker, NextHome Paradise Realty. Today, we're going to give you a July market report. We're going to look at what happened back in July. We're also going to take a quick snapshot of where we are so far in August. A couple weeks into the month, and we can kind of see some things starting to take shape. And we're going to do this because we want to get an idea of whether or not the July numbers are a foreshadowing of things to come, or if maybe things might be a little bit better the month after. It's a pretty odd month when you look at it. Let's get right into the numbers and you'll see what I'm talking about. First thing we're going to look at is units sold, number of sales that we had for the month. The entire island, 184 houses sold in the month of July. That's down 29% from July of the year prior. So we already know things are starting to slow down. That's a pretty big drop. Let's come all the way to our markets that we pay a close bit of attention to. North Kona residential sales, 27 compared to 58 last year. That's a decrease of over 50%, 53% decrease. That's really significant. That's something to take note of. Condominiums in North Kona, 35 sales compared to 40 last year. Up in South Kohala, we had 13 houses sold compared to 20, so we're seeing a decrease there also. That's 35%. And then condos, 21 condos sold compared to 31 last year. So all four major tracked categories have seen significant decreases in the units sold compared to year over year. Why is this important? Because units sold will go down before prices go down, but that's how it works. Price is a function of supply and demand. If demand is going down, price will follow. Let's look at the median price now, because this is where people focus on the prices. And that's fine, but it doesn't tell you the full picture because you have to take into account the demand. Okay, entire island, residential, $456,000 is the median price on the island. That's an increase of 7% over the year before. Now, we were talking 20% increases just a few months ago, so that already tells us we're going down a little bit. But then we come over to our side of the island and we see a totally different picture, and it's pretty mixed. The median price for a house in Kona was $1,325,000. That's an increase of 47% over last year. Now, we didn't have a whole lot of sales, but we had a pretty high number in the median price. Sometimes if you don't have as much data, you can get some pretty big fluctuations. I think we got a little bit of that right now. The median price of a condominium, $515,000. That's up from $422,500 last year, an increase of 21%. Up in South Kohala, the median price for a house was $838,000. That's an increase of just 2%. And the median price for a condo, $930,000, just 5%. So we're seeing single-digit increases up in Kohala, but still double-digit increases here in Kona. And if we go just take a quick look at year-to-date data, we see that houses in Kohala are up about 14%, and in Kona, 18%. Condos in Kohala up 44%, and condos here in Kona, 31%. So the condo market seems to be going up a little bit more. We've been seeing this for a while. And that's because a lot of people find the condo market more accessible and more easy to get something that's going to be a cash flow positive product as opposed to a house. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. So the big alarming news to me was the decrease in units sold, because like I said, the units sold will come down and then the price will come down after. And if we see units sold coming down to 27 houses sold in the entire month, that's going to be the lowest number we've seen in a long time. And I'm going to go and put up our chart that we've had here. We've looked at it a number of times over the last few years, but we're going to take a look at going back to January of 2021. This chart looks at houses sold, the median price, for both the combined South Kohala and North Kona market. And you can see that we peaked right around March and April of 2021. We're seeing 74, 78 houses sold in a month. That's a lot. But since then, we've had a pretty steady decrease going all the way to now, where we had a total of, 39 sales in total when we put them all together. One thing I want to point out what's going on this chart. The number of sales is indicated by the bar coming up from the bottom. And the number in gray is how many houses were sold over 1.5 million. And the number in yellow is how many houses were sold under 1.5 million. And you can see that we only had 10 houses sold over 1.5 million. That's not very many compared to where we had been just a couple months ago. We were in the mid 20s. So we are seeing a decrease in those upper end homes for sure. And you can just tell by just the size of that bar there, that very last one that we had last month. It's the lowest month we've had in quite some time. And I think going back to before everything started and shifted in this market a long time ago. And so why did we see things go down so much in July? Well, let's jump in our time machine and go back. Back in mid-June, I think it was June 13th, was the day that things really shifted in the market. Interest rates got raised at the Federal Reserve 75 basis points, and that did have an impact on our mortgage market. Pulling up the chart, we can see that the average mortgage rate had kind of creeped up to the mid fives, and then they had that meeting, they changed it, and mortgage rates went all the way up to 5.78 and topped out at 5.81. I know a lot of people saw 6%, and that was after that first Federal Reserve meeting where they raised prices or raised the overnight bank lending rate 75 basis points. They also had another one coming later, and you're going to see how the market reacts very differently. But there was a chill put on the market at that first rate hike, and I think what happened was a lot of people held for a moment. And so the data that we're seeing the next month is people not writing contracts in the last half of June, and you didn't have closings happening in July, and that's why we have such a small number there. So that was my theory. And I decided, well, let's go take a look at what's going on in the market now. So I went and ran some numbers just a couple minutes ago, and I'm just going to give you some raw numbers here real quick. The number of houses currently on the market in North Kona and South Kohala, 147. The median price of those houses, and of course that's the list price, is $1.425 million. There are 103 houses in escrow. That's really important. These are listed as contingent or under contract in our MLS system. The median price of those 103 houses, that's the list price, is $979,000. So I can see that we have a lot of properties that are probably overpriced that aren't adjusting properly to this market. We see that the median price is at, we can probably expect in the upper nines. And so we're going to see the median price coming down here soon. And people are going to have to adjust to that. But the big thing is 103 houses in escrow. If we had 20-something close last month, we know that that number is going to improve. So that's kind of my theory, is that we're going to see that unit sold number get better in at the end of August and September, as opposed to what it was back in June. I think that was a little bit of an anomaly with the market trying to react to what was going on with the Federal Reserve data. And if we look at condos, there's 59 active listings of condos right now, and 78 in escrow. So that market is still a little bit tighter. Again, that's going to be a lower price market and a market that you can get in and get some positive cash flow. So should you be worried about interest rate hikes in the future having as drastic effect as they did back in June, which impacted July's data? Well, you'll remember, and I got a link up here in the corner, you'll remember I talked about this a little bit last month, and I said, listen, they're not directly correlated. At that time, I thought we were going to see another Federal Reserve rate hike of 100 basis points. Turned out to be 75. And that happened on, let's look here, July 27th, so just a couple weeks ago. So let's go back to that chart that we had from the Federal Reserve that tracks mortgage rates across the country. And let's look at July 27th. We saw that in July 21st, the average mortgage rate was 5.54. And then July 28th, after they'd already announced an interest rate hike, we saw it drop to 5.3. And then the next week, it dropped even further, got to 4.99. So if you ever needed real proof that the Federal Reserve rate does not have a direct impact on the mortgage market, here it is. Now, what will happen in the future? I think what's happening right now is we're going to see another federal rate hike. That's already been indicated. But if people are not reacting and buying houses right now and borrowing money to do that, the people who are lending money, they still want to lend money. That's how they make their profit and their money. They're going to continue to lower their interest rate. So I think you're going to see by the end of this year, we're probably going to be between 4.5% and 5%. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a relief for a lot of people who are borrowing to buy property. So Things did tick up again last week. We're back at 5.2, and that's as of August 11th. So we'll see if this continues. But I feel like there's not as many people getting in there and buying homes with a loan, and so the mortgage market has to respond. So the main thing to know is that they're not directly related. You will see this number go up if people go and start buying houses again. And maybe that's going to happen because I just indicated that we have a whole bunch of houses in escrow compared to last month. That's something to really, really keep an eye on. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I'm curious as to what you guys think. If you have any questions you want, you can ask them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer every single one of them. But I hope this data has been helpful for you. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. It should be a pretty interesting ride, and look forward to seeing you again real soon.